Hello, everyone, and welcome to our group. Today, I'll be hosting a special guest, the Doctors of Self Worth. I guess you've never been to that kind of doctor, nor was I. That's why I invited him. That's why I invited him today to join us. Hello, Andre.
Hi, how are you, Norma? It's good to be here
Hello.
on your stage.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming here today. Like I mentioned, today we'll be talking about how important is loving ourselves, especially when we want to improve our relationships or attract the love of our lives. So, as a doctor of self worth, what's your opinion about this?
Well, it's a must-have. If one is looking for a relationship, a loving relationship, then normally it cannot happen by not loving oneself first. And I see so many people that attract their own limitations in partners. So there's so much help from the universe.
Yeah. How do you like? Is it possible to love yourself if you don't have self worth?
What a good question. I think the two are very, very well connected because part of self worth work or the transformation is creating a new map to three parts I have normally in my process is self respect, self love, and then a new self image. And that self love piece has to be in in the puzzle. We cannot just skip over it. And why I'm saying that is because unfortunately the conversations, if you're watching and listening to us, in your head will start to externalize into your life. So you really have to watch how you treat yourself. And a lot of people are treating themselves so much worse than anyone else.
Yeah, like sometimes I always see like people say everyone treats me horribly, and then like I ask like how do you what's your reaction when you do something that you like that was wrong, like I know you forget something at home and you're pretty far from home and then you have to go back and like I'm the worst person, I'm so stupid, I'm so like, and there's all this hatred that just like you were just human, you forgot something. And I'm just like, you see how you like really treat yourself when you are not pretending you're okay but actually something happens, life puts a little pressure on you, and suddenly there's all this hatred towards you. um like why do we start like having this negative relationship with ourselves? why we why do we forget about our worth?
I think one is a habit. So if one has been practicing it a long time, then it comes very easy to self deprecate ourselves. But the other hand, it comes from unawareness, unconsciousness. I tend to catch even, family members that, oh, I'm so stupid. How could I have done this or that? And I can already see that how they are switching on the emotions of, sadness, frustration, uh, and hurting themselves. But most of it was picked up probably from authorities, mom, dad, whoever was around you. And and unfortunately, until you you do not start to realize what's happening, and this is where coaches and mentors are probably your best, or a friend who acts like a mentor. You want to ask for feedback because we are living life on this unconscious programming, and you need to be pointed out where you are sleeping. And if someone doesn't do that, it will take you ages and ages to realize what's going on. Or the other way to find it, and that could be an exercise for you, is to look at each day. Is there any trigger points? Is there times in your day when you are losing it? And you can go back from because now you're already in the negative emotion. So you might want to ask yourself, like, how did I create this?
Mm.
Because those negative emotions normally start with negative thinking or labeling something that was just without any inherent meaning. And you have probably put a label on it that feels bad. And ultimately, you have choice around whether you miss the turn off, whether you have missed the class or missed the bus, or whether you have lost $10,000. It's up to you how you are putting a story on it, because the stories you attach to things will define how you feel and pretty much define your destiny.
Yeah, I recently talked to Gabor Mare. I listened to his talk, and he said like there was this case of a father like having this anger outburst because he was like doing something, recording something, I think, and then children like jumped in his room, and then like his whole work was just ruined, and he had to start all over. And Gabor asked him like, how did you feel in this moment? And he said, I felt disrespected. And then Gabor said, like, being disrespected is not an emotion. That's not a feeling. It's perception you add. Because no one was actively disrespecting you. Your children just wanted your attention. They were missing you. They wanted to see you. And like what you said, like this, the story we attach is this perception that we have, and it's like it's just a part of the puzzle. It's not like the full truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a great way to tackle this is ask the question, whether it's about children or your life partner or whatever is happening, then ask yourself, what is the purpose of this? Because that could bring you back to the meaning of an ideal or better meaning and a long-term view. Because
Mm.
then you may find yourself in situations where your children are annoying, and I know it because I have two of them, where I really I want to ask myself, like, what is the purpose of this relationship, or how do I want to be perceived, or what am I doing the next 2 or 3 or 5 minutes? How would that affect their self-worth, or am I really showing up as the person I want to be in this family or as a father?
Mm. So how should our parents, like clearly you're the professional in this self-worth thing, and how should like we as parents, or how should our parents have parented us so that we would feel and be aware of our self-worth, what they did that like ruined our sense of our worth?
I think an easy shortcut is to take a look at your life under a magnifying glass and look at where you are lagging from what you want to achieve.
Mm.
Because I have to say, what you are now, where you are now in life, and I'm talking about every area of life, is the mirror of what you believe in or how you are wired in your head. And
Mhm.
the telltales are already in front of you. But this is what I said before. This is where Norma, or even myself, in a short chat, we could probably point out what you are missing, because probably results in your life are coming from miscommunication from to yourself, or even not seeing 100% of the view, which we never do. This is why I have a coach, probably Norma as a coach, because we only work with what we can perceive, and that's much less than what is. And I'm talking about you could
Yeah.
probably pick up
Gosh.
2%.
Yeah, so
two
true.
percent or 1% of what is around you. And then imagine if you're missing 98%, you're trying to build a life from what you see around you. But I have some bad news. The 1% or the 2% that you can see in your life, that you have a bad relationship or your job sucks, well, that comes from that 1% that you can see and you've already created from your beliefs. So if you want new results, then you first have to become aware of that take ownership that you have created or you have attracted it some way, even if you feel it's nothing to do with you, because that's when we can start helping you. But after that, things have to change inside you, and then what you will see that the outside world will start to respond and rearrange itself again according to your beliefs. I know it sounds very far-fetched, but I've seen this happening so many times, and and it comes down to awareness, catching you, maybe catching mom and dad. Oh, am I really doing this? And I never questioned myself. Why am I doing these strange things? There's so many stories where people are hanging on to these, customs and habits from earlier generations, and they haven't got a clue why. But
Yeah.
that's when it's time to create a new map and ask hard questions. Why am I doing this? Why am I following dad or mom? Why am I stuck in a job like mom and dad? Because I see other people doing amazing out there. Like I can tell you right now, probably your genetics and blueprint is 99.99% the same. So then ask yourself, what could be different?
I love this.
That comes back to, yeah, the level of self-worth, confidence, probably the level of optimism, conversations in your head, whether you stop because you tried something for 5 times and it didn't work. Well, what if it takes 10 or 15?
Mm.
I'm not saying it's going to be fun. We just bought a caravan and I've been fixing it for 8 days. And I meant to buy it with everything working. So I was more than frustrated, but I said,
Yeah.
what's the big picture? What's the big picture? And we're taking off tomorrow, by the way, towards Croatia and and the Balkan. But I asked myself, what's the big picture? I want to have amazing experiences with my family, traveling around joy, and I said, well, then I just have to do the next thing and fix it before we can take off. So I just came back to the present and I did one thing at a time, and that's been going on for 7 days.
I love this. Yeah, I like, do you think, like, from your experience, is it possible to do it like alone without any support from outside to really go deep and change the perception and the habits and like basically redirect our life, and align it more with what we actually want and not just what was kind of given for us, like to us when we were children and we just soaked everything and now we are just repeating everything else in our life.
Well, I always think in possibilities. So I say everything is possible. The chance of you doing it in a short space of time is very low. So I believe that high probabilities are a better hit. So I guess, you may have heard these mystics over in the eastern Himalayas and they sit and meditate for 8 hours a day. Well, life has really accelerated on this planet, and probably you are already busy. And if you cannot fit in so much time and awareness and cutting out all the noise in your head, which is already full probably, then if you want to accelerate and not lose 5, 10, 15 years to figure it out, then in some way you need proven exercises and get to the core of it. And I want to give you an example why this is key. Because I've tried this. I spent probably 23 years, and this is really figure it out myself. And I spent over $100,000 on courses, treatments, all kinds of things. And you know what I did? I always chose the safe things to apply. And I couldn't resolve my self-worth issues, my self-confidence issues. And I was reading over 100 books. Well, probably the books had the answers, but remember, I was always picking up that 1 2% which was fitting into my old identity. So even if I had the solution in front of me and I probably had it, I would never apply it, and I didn't. And I actually needed someone to put it in my face. I know it sounds
Mm.
brutal, but I
It
eventually,
was probably when that happened, actually.
that happened 6 years ago when, I had, my life started to cave on me. But the pressure in your life will get you there. But please don't wait. Don't hurt yourself and don't hurt others. There's this saying that, some people are bleeding on people who didn't cut them, and that was me. But eventually, when I committed, and this is the question here, are you ready for transforming your life? Because if you're ready, then please find someone who gets result with you fairly fast and follow their process, because that's what I did myself. And you know what? In 6 months' time or 8 months' time, my life has completely changed as opposed to 23 years trying to do it on my own. So, what
Oh
do you
my
want?
gosh. Yeah, that's such a good testimonial of how important it really is to have someone to, like, basically why we avoid the changes that would really make a difference in our lives is because it feels uncertain. It feels scary. It feels like we are not sure, and we are avoiding this feeling. And I notice when I'm working with people that, like, they know everything. They read all the books, they listen to all the podcasts, like just like you did. But then they're just like this, yeah, I know I should just do it, but I just can't. And then we focus on processing the uncomfortable emotions. Okay, so yeah, what are your thoughts? Like, it might not work, or maybe no one will ever love me after I change myself, or like whatever it is. And then let's just stay with this thought for a little bit. What's happening in your body? What's coming up? And it's really like we are running away from uncomfortable sensations since ever. That's like exactly what trauma is. It's just too much uncomfortable. We just we just dissociate from ourselves and from these emotions. And that's why we need someone, like we were supposed to have a parent, a loving mom who just be there. Oh, you're so sad because something happened. Let's just sit with this sadness. But instead, what we heard was, stop crying. It's not a big deal. Get over it. Or go to your room and come back when you're ready to be a normal kid again. And I think that's the biggest part of, like, the biggest kind of value of having someone is just going through the trenches of, like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if that's gonna work. And do you agree?
Yes, I agree, and I think sometimes some of my clients have really one person they that believes in them, and that's me, because their environment is not very, encouraging. But I want you to take away one thing from this conversation. Probably, if your parents have not been free millionaires doing business, then there's a good chance that that's not how you are conditioned. And unfortunately, then, as Norma said, you fall into this old rut of knowing the familiar, and the familiar is what you've been through for the last, decades, and you will recreate it until there is some major change happens. And this is where people start to realize that, hey, you've got this unconscious mind that will do everything to keep you where you are, familiar, that is perceived as safe. But there is this conscious mind, and you probably use this mind. You must have set some goals. They felt maybe very uncomfortable, and you've already worked out what you want, or you have a rough idea. Now, my worst news today is you are not wired by your mind. You are not set up with the mindset to achieve your conscious goals. You probably never been. You will recreate what you know, unless there is this major shift in your head and in your emotion, in your psychology, to release you from this old and familiar, which is the default mode. These computers have these
Yeah,
default buttons.
that's true. Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
you work yourself. And it's not just you, it's every one of us. So growth
Yes.
can accelerate massively. If someone knows, these little toggle buttons on when you're setting up in any, I just came up with this idea, but that's what needs to be moved. And there is a
Mhm.
good chance you will not get into that cockpit to the switchboard where you would need a specialist like
Yeah.
us to
I love that.
really get into the programming
That
of your
was so, I'm sure that was so helpful for our listeners today. Just tell us, where can we find you? Where can we contact you?
Probably the easiest way is hashtag Doctor of Self-Worth. And I've got a web page that's being built, drselfworth.com. Uh, and I'm across most social media channels. And also you can drop me an email. It's Andre, ENDRE, at drofselfworth.com. If I'm slow at responding, it's because I'm traveling the Balkan and probably I'll have very sparse internet access. So please have some patience before I answer.
Thank you so much, Andre, for coming today. And I'll see you some next time as well.
Thanks
Bye.
so much. I loved it. Ciao.